Hey everyone, it's freezing cold Friday, hence the jacket. I wanted to start opening these videos with sort of like a weekly cap on or recap on how my fat loss has been going. So I'm week one of the sort of last push before Bali and I guess a diet break. I haven't really thought about what I want to do after that. But I've dropped my calories down to about an average of I think 150 per day, and I'm pretty much hitting between 2,000 and 2,200 per day. That actually, I think honestly, the refeed, the diet break last week has like really affected my recovery in a positive way. I've started taking a quarter of a sleeping pill every night as well, which is making sure I think I get deep REM sleep. I'm sleeping all the way through. I usually get anxiety around 3:30, 4 a.m., which wakes me up. So I usually I go to sleep by about 10 and I'm waking up at like 3:30 usually. So the sleeping pill is it's putting me asleep by about 10 and it's keeping me under till about 4:35. And even then when I wake up, it's like a groggy sleep. So I think that's really helping with recovery. And thus the 2,000 calories actually isn't that bad. I'm training sessions, I'm getting DOMs, like I'm pushing hard. I'm doing slow eccentrics. I'm feeling the weights, I'm feeling the muscles, so it's feeling good. Fat loss this week I think I started the week at 92.2. I'm sitting roughly at about 91, 91.5. So an okay, 500 grams a week, that's about what we want. Particularly as I'm not sure on my body fat percentage now. It's probably around I've had skin folds done at 12 and 15%, but it's probably closer to 15 to 17, down from about 25 to 30. So, and about 10 kilos. So that it's going well, but unfortunately it's just a long way from where I want to be. Honestly, I want it to be really in the 10, sub 10 by Bali, but I just don't think it's going to happen. I'm going to try to add some cardio in later on, but so it's feeling good diet wise. It's feeling okay. Adherence issues aren't a problem. Even fatigue's not that bad. The cold doesn't help when you're already your thermic output is decreasing. So I'm trying to increase protein up to about 220, 230 grams a day. And that means I have to drop carbs down to a bit under 200 and fats about 40, 45 grams. So that's sort of an update on me. Today I wanted to talk about macros, and because it's relevant to me, and I've actually chatted to a client today. I don't think she'd appreciate me mentioning her name, but I actually chatted to a client today who was basically food and money are an issue, in the sense that not that she's broke, but just that if you are broke week to week or whatever, how can you make smarter choices? So that's the context of today's video. We're talking about the macros: protein, carbs, fats, and don't worry about alcohol. We're not going to talk about that. But and how we can get those on a budget. So I'm on a budget as well, so this is relevant to me too. So I've done some basically notes on sources, but basically before we get started, there's some rules I want you to think about. They're not hard and fast. If you're keto or anything like that, this isn't really going to apply to you, but maybe you'll find something useful. And when I talk about these rules, they're not you must. I've just found that these help. So when we're going for a high protein, moderate to high carb, low to moderate fat diet, I found that basically every food source I try to eat contains protein. Now, if it's going to contain carbs too, I pretty much want it to just have only carbs, or carbs and protein. Same with fats. Because my fat's 45 grams a day, I actually don't consume anything that's specifically a fat source. I used to eat nuts, I used to eat halloumi and rice cakes, and not rice cakes, LCMs, and I used to have a lot more leeway. I just can't, because, we'll get to that in a second. But also with carbs, I try to have carb sources with protein, no carb sources with fat, really. So starting with protein, so cheap sources of protein that I've been using are chicken, cottage cheese, eggs, cans of tuna, and powder. So I use a carton of eggs are $3.50. Now, I'm not vegan, vegetarian, or anything like that. If you are and you want my opinion on sauces you can use, I mean, tofu sauces, vegan products, the meat substitutes, and all those are fine from what I understand. I'd have to do a bit more research if you want some information on it, but I can do that if you want it. So I'll just stick to like an omnivorous diet, I guess. So cottage cheese, chicken, eggs, and cans of tuna and protein powder are probably bang for buck the closest or the cheapest protein sources I can find. So I used to have steak and turkey and not really fish, but like I'd have turkey, like uh, like sandwiches, but you know, like pressed ones. I've forgotten what they're called. And like a lot of steak and stuff like that. But basically, steak's too expensive. I mean, I'm getting 250 grams of Scotch fillet, 200 grams of Scotch fillet for $8. It's like I can get almost a kilo. In some places, I can get a kilo of chicken breast for $8. So on a budget, no. So my recommendations for your protein sources are finding ways to incorporate cottage cheese, chicken, egg whites mostly. So with the eggs, I'll boil up 24 eggs a day and then eat those over 2 days likely. So what I'll do is I'll just have a bowl of eggs as a meal and take all the egg yolks out and just shovel them down. Personally, I enjoy that. Like I love the taste of boiled eggs. So you can find a way, like Jamie puts hers in she makes deviled eggs with like a curry and mayonnaise. I don't have the calories to play around with that kind of thing. And I enjoy eggs this way. So, you know, so things like steak, turkey, and fish can be part of it, or really any meat is fine, or tofu or vegetarian options, whatever. They do have some carbs in them, but that's fine. Like I said, carbs and protein good. Carbs on their own good, protein on their own good. Carbs and fats not so good because it's hard to get your protein in. So protein mixes are like halloumi and nuts. I consider those fat sources with some protein. Now the halloumi is sort of 50-50, but given that my fat's low, I would tend to be like, halloumi is a fat source. Like if I have 100 grams halloumi, there's going to be like 20 grams of fat and 20 grams of protein. When you talk about like fat has more calories than protein, it's a fat source with some protein. Same with nuts. A lot of dietitians and stuff like to say they're high in nuts, and they are, but you also got like quite a lot of fat. So usually more fat than protein. So when you're on a restricted calorie diet, they can be a little bit of a problem. So yogurt is another one that I've got on there for like a protein and carb mix. Same with milk, and a lot of dairies will have sort of like bitter carbs and protein. So that's something you can look at. And they're relatively inexpensive. Like halloumi is not inexpensive really, like it's a luxury, and that's why I've gotten rid of it. Nuts are also semi-expensive, depends on your budget, but honestly, if you're talking about going into a calorie deficit, yogurt could play a part in a whole food diet, absolutely, as should nuts and halloumi. Like, I'm not a new dietitian, so, you know, take this info with a grain of salt. But yeah, like, for me, when I'm trying to get 230 grams of protein on a 2,100 calorie diet, I'm literally just looking for a protein source that I can stomach. You may not be on such a budget, but it's something to think about. And there are all kinds of low-cal sauces and flavors that you can put in these things. Carb sources are going to be so cheap. I mean, basically, I live off potatoes, rice cakes, and cereal, like either oats or honey bites. Like honey bites if I'm training on a Saturday and I need a buttload of carbs, or just oats if I'm having a meal. I put a couple of scoops of protein in it. Potatoes are amazing. Like something like 300 or 400 grams of potatoes has like 200 calories in it. No fat, all good carbs. So good job there. And then what else have I got in here? Like, and then you've got all your grains: rice, bread, rice and bread, and all that kind of stuff, cereals. And then low-cal sweets. Now, this is something that like your mileage may vary, but for me, I have to have, like, I come home every day and I have about 3 or 4 icy poles, which comes to about 130 calories, which, like, as my calories get lower, I'm starting to realize is quite an expensive treat. But having said that, it's a nice thing to end the day, and maybe it's just a habitual thing at this point, but when we don't have them, or when I don't have them, I look for some kind of sweet or junky food. But when I have these, I have my 3 or 4 and I don't eat anything else. So it's a little bit of like, don't let perfect be the enemy of good. So like Jamie told me last night, paddle pops are something like, I think 80 calories or 70 calories a pop. So you could have 1 or 2 of those a night. the thing is not to binge, it's just to have a little bit of something sweet and nice, and it's a carb source. Like the thing with the paddle pop is it might have a little bit more fat. Icy poles are literally just sugar, and sugar is a carb, so that's fine. Fats, in terms of fat sources, I don't really have any notes. I know a lot of people are keto, they're all, like high fat, there's fat in everything. And I've talked to this about with my clients too, and they sort of like, it's so hard to keep my fat down. And it's like, because you need to actively look for low fat options and finding foods that are, like we said, protein and carb or protein. Because those foods will, by just their very nature, have the necessary fats you'll need for your intake on a calorie deficit. If you're going for maintenance and a surplus and even more variety, absolutely play around with it. These are just things that work for me. But like, I'm getting all the fats I need really from like the tunas, and even the oats have some fats in it. So like I said, like I can get my macros and get my 40-50. You want about 0.5 grams per kilo body weight as your lowest fat intake. So, you just half your body weight, and that's roughly what your intake can get to at its lowest. I think highest is 1.5 grams per kilo body weight. If I was trying to grow or build some muscle, yeah, I'd probably bump it up to 1 gram per kilo and something like that. But yeah, when I'm dieting, I need fuel, so I need carbs, I need protein for growth, and fat I just need to, keep it at its lowest level. Trust me, your libido will be affected and things like that, but I mean, like, it's not the end of the world, it's fine. So things like everything I've recommended and the protein sources and the carbs are super cheap. Like, I'm budgeting for like full shopping lists with, so I think my shopping list this week includes 10 cans of tuna, 2 tubs of cottage cheese, about 1.5 kilos of chicken with the sauces and rices for that. I don't think I'll have any potatoes, but I'll have probably 4 cartons of eggs, a bag of icy poles. I'll probably get 1 rice cake. I'm getting 1 oats, and a few other like toiletries and whatever. And it's going to come to about $80. And that will be enough for me to have my smoothies in the morning, which I have left over from last week. So I'm not budgeting for that this week. But I have protein powder already. So let's say I didn't have the smoothies, I'd have protein powder. And again, I would urge everybody to go to Chemist Warehouse. I put a link in the thread on my group messenger chat for my clients. Chemist Warehouse, if you keep an eye on their sales, you can get a 2 kilo tub of protein for $35. Like, that's awesome. Keep that in your thing. 2 scoops in the morning, boom, you're done. So you can have that in the morning, and then I usually have like some eggs in the afternoon, maybe a protein bar. Maybe I have my tuna cottage cheese on Cruskits for dinner with the icy poles after. I'll have my like solid chicken, probably be like a chicken Alfredo or something is typically what I'll cook up. And you can get like those sodium rich packets that don't have really any calories in them. They have sodium in them, but that's fine. And then you mix it with some like mixed vegetables. And there's like nothing. So that'll be my lunch, and then that's pretty much it. That'll be my 2 calories. If I have like days where I have a heavy training session, I'll have some rice cakes, or like I said, some oats to mix it up, or some honey bites, which honey bites are amazing. Oh, crumpets are another good one. Toast as well, but I mentioned bread already. But crumpets are a really good source of just low fat, low protein as well, but carb sources. So start playing around, like this is my shopping list, and while I think it can be useful to you, the important thing I'm stressing is you need to be reflexive, you need to be interactive with your diet. You need to go, this is what I've set, and this is how I'm going to achieve it. It's good to have, like we talked, I think in the first video, have that plan, have that structure. I wake up every morning, I put myself in MyFitnessPal. Now, you don't necessarily need to be that regimented. I can roughly guess from what I've eaten, but you need to have those good habits before you can be a bit more intuitive, I think. Start regimented, start putting everything into MyFitnessPal. It takes 2 minutes. Once you've built all the meals up, you just put it straight in, you track it, it's fine. And you'll get into the habit of getting your calories and macros on. Like, I'm not feeling like I'm hungry in the sense that I go, it would be nice to eat food. But because my protein's so high, and protein is high satiety, I don't walk around going, oh my God, I'm dying of hunger. And I'm on what a lot of you who are in the business or who know something about nutrition would say is a pretty low calorie diet for somebody who weighs 92 kilos. And my performance is still up. Like I'm still getting like 45-minute to 1 hour long reasonably intense weight sessions. Like, 14 to 18 sets per body part per week, with various rep ranges and tonnages. So, and no niggles, no injuries. My lower back's always an issue, but that's, because I'm an old man. But aside from that, no shoulder, a little bit of knee, a little bit of shoulder, but again, that can be some form, glute, whatever, like posterior chain issues. But the point is, find a way to make this work for you. I've given you some pretty low budget, low price, low calorie, high protein options here. If you can't find a way to make cottage cheese, chicken, eggs, tuna, powder, steak, chicken, turkey, halloumi, yogurt, rice cakes, potato, cereal, and that work for you, honestly, I don't know what to say. I don't know how I can help you. So if it's not an education issue, then it's a habit issue, and it's a willpower, it's a interest or whatever issue. And I'm going to touch on not excuses in the derogatory sense, like you're not lazy if you don't do these things or you're not a bad person or anything like that, but I want to address common criticisms of the exercise and health lifestyle next week probably. So we'll get into that later. This is a really long one, so I'll cut it off here. There's probably a lot more I missed and need to talk about. So if there's something you missed, I understand I didn't address ketogenic, and I know some of my clients are. I can do something on that later. I know some of my clients are vegan and vegetarian. Again, I didn't really address that. I can do so if you want me to. I can do that in person or on here. You let me know. I hope this has been helpful. If there's anything else you need to know or want to know, flick me a buzz, email, text message, comment on here, whatever. I mean, you all know how to contact me anyway. Thanks very much, team, and we'll talk soon.